Why did Republicans storm it? Here's one possible answer from our NBC News First Read team: because the GOP is running on empty. Our political unit, Chuck Todd, Mark Murray, Carrie Dan, writing, if you want to know why House Republicans decided Wednesday to disrupt a deposition into the impeachment inquiry, it's probably because President Trump and the GOP are running out of defenses. Here's Congresswoman Jackie Speier.
What happened yesterday was a high school prank by a bunch of 50-year-old white men. The Republicans are whining because the president is whining, and frankly, I think they did what they did yesterday because the president was whining that they weren't fighting for him hard enough.
But the president liked the whole thing. Watch this.
I think this showed full support for the president. He was happy to see it happen. He was very supportive of it, as he should be.
The Republican who led that charge is joining me now, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz. He sits on the Judiciary and Armed Services Committees and is joining us now from Florida. Congressman, it's great to have you back on the show. Thank you.
Thanks, Hallie. My IFB wasn't really clear. Did Jackie Speier identify my race and my gender in the context of my activities as a member of Congress yesterday?
I think you heard her soundbite. I want to give you the chance to respond. Go ahead.
Well, no. Did she say it was that we were a bunch of white men? What does the fact that we are white men have to do with our desire to represent the millions of constituents that we serve? I mean, I was deeply offended by that. Like, when Jackie Speier walks in a room, I don't sit there and say, you know, a white woman came in, or when someone of a different race or ethnicity comes in. This is the type of identity politics from the left that seems to permeate any substantive or procedural argument that they make. And it's sickening to me that that is how we would be thought of. The people we serve are diverse, and it's really kind of sickening.
Let me talk about the substantive piece of it then, because there are two pieces of this, right? And by the way, Congressman, I want to talk to you about Turkey and Syria, so I'm going to ask you to leave me some time for that in this discussion. But I want to start with sort of the process. Why don't we start with that?
What are your thoughts on Turkey and Syria?
We started on this conversation on the idea that Republicans walked into this secure area of the Capitol yesterday, including some Republicans who could have just gone in and participated as members of those committees as the rules allowed. So what was the point of this? Was this really anything more than a stunt?
The point was to highlight the true due process inequities that are damaging the Congress and damaging the institution of the presidency. I don't think Democrats have answered the question yet. Why is Donald Trump getting less due process than President Clinton got or than Richard Nixon got? So that was our objective. I'm on the Judiciary Committee
because some of the members of
Nadler.
Congress, but we're showing a picture, Congressman. I don't know if you can see a return of some of the members of Congress walking in, your Republican colleagues, who could be in the room anyway. 47 of them are on these committees, able to go in and participate in depositions, and many of them, in fact, have participated in these depositions.
Right. Well, so I'm speaking for myself. I tried to go in last week as a member of the Judiciary Committee, and that's a reasonable thing to do. It was on September 12th that Jerry Nadler, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, said, I am hereby launching the impeachment inquiry, the impeachment investigation. So I think the bizarre element here is that you would exclude members of the committee that launched the impeachment inquiry from the factual development that Adam Schiff is trying to do in secret, aided by selective leaks and then misrepresentations about the whistleblower, his contact with the whistleblower, and the transcript from President Trump and President Zelensky. So I think that's why we were trying to get in there. But, like, I only speak for myself. I should be allowed in that room as a member of the Judiciary Committee, as a member of the Armed Services Committee, and they wouldn't let us in. And it begs the question, what are they hiding?
So you're speaking for yourself, so let's talk about that. You are a member of Judiciary, member of Armed Services. As you know, none of those committees are the ones conducting these depositions. It's Intel, it's Foreign Affairs, it's Oversight.
I don't know that.
That is the fact. And the rules,
it's not a fact.
Go back and look at the December 12th
hearing of the Judiciary Committee, Hallie. Go back and look. You cannot misstate that as a fact. How can you tell me it's a fact that my committee's not involved when it was the committee chairman of the Judiciary Committee who launched the investigation?
Your committee has not subpoenaed these individuals to appear for the deposition.
That doesn't mean we're not involved in the impeachment inquiry. No, you're shifting ground now, right? First you say we're not involved, then you say we didn't issue the subpoenas. Those are two different things, and we are involved because our chairman launched the inquiry. That is a fact.
Sure, I want to let you have your say here, but I also want to find out why you think the rules do not apply to you as they're laid out. To you, Congressman Gaetz, why don't they apply to you?
Oh, I do think the rules apply to all of us, but the rules would typically require the Speaker of the House. I shouldn't say the rules. The precedent that was applied to President Clinton and President Nixon would necessitate some articulation of the rules so that we have an understanding of what the due process requirements will be. We see Democrats now sacrificing due process on the altar of their hatred for Donald Trump, and that should concern all Americans. I'm not asking about precedent, though.
I'm not asking about precedent, Congressman. I'm asking you about the rules.
Why? But
why
that's
do you
really
think
important.
That you're above that?
Precedent informs on the rules.
This is the whole point of why you stormed into the SCIF yesterday.
It's not, I'm not above the rules, but when the Judiciary Committee chairman launches the inquiry, when the Speaker of the House won't adopt rules, then it creates an environment where the Democrats just sort of make it up as they go along. Let's kick some committees out, let some committees in, and it's all because they want to reshuffle the legislative deck because they're humiliated that they lost the Russia investigation unequivocally with the American people. Adam Schiff lied to the American people when he said he had more than circumstantial evidence that President Trump was engaged in a criminal conspiracy with Russia. And so this is a way to take some folks on the Judiciary Committee, like myself, like Andy Biggs, out of the next hand because we were effective at making the case that Democrats were overstating the facts.
You're very clear, Congressman, that you are unhappy with the process. And it should be noted that the Judiciary Committee has not actually subpoenaed these witnesses to be deposed. But I want to ask you not about the process, but about the substance of this, Congressman, because I actually haven't heard you say anything since Bill Taylor testified. Yes or no? Is it okay for any politician to trade military aid for political favors?
Look, I'm not going to get into the specifics of the Taylor deposition because I wasn't present for it.
I'm not asking about that. I'm asking you, is it appropriate in any instance? Would you do that?
The lead into your question was, I want to talk about Bill Taylor's deposition. And so when we don't have the benefit of the cross-examination of the questions asked, I do not believe it would be appropriate for any politician to link military aid to assistance in a future election. No, and I also don't think that's what the president did. I think the president was right to follow up on the work of Bill Barr to try to identify the corrupt origins of the Russia investigation. It was a Ukrainian court that ruled that the Ukraine impermissibly interfered in the U.S. election. And that is a sufficient basis for the president to ask for cooperation with the attorney general on that matter.
So a couple of things on that, and I'm going to ask my control room to give me a little bit more time with you, because, again, I want to make sure we get to foreign policy. But what you are saying is significant, not about the piece about Ukraine in 2016, because that is something that is not a proven theory, but specifically that you say.
It is a court order in the Ukraine.
No, I'm sorry.
But you just keep blowing through these things like they're facts, but they're not.
But you got to stay in the realm of facts here. And you just stated a fact, Congressman. I did not mischaracterize you. I want to be very clear. You just said it would not be appropriate for anybody to trade military aid for help in a future political election. Yeah. It appears from the testimony that we have seen reported publicly from the witnesses here,
from the selective leaks provided by Adam Schiff that aren't subject to cross-examination. No, see, like, you're playing the game here,
Do you dispute the facts?
You're playing the game where they selectively leak stuff that is not subject to cross-examination, rigorous review, check against documents and timelines. And by the way, when they had to do this in open in the Russia investigation with Mueller, with Lewandowski, Democrats looked terrible. And now they're trying to do things in secret so we can have interviews like this so that you can cherry pick elements of leaked testimony and then ask me about them when I wasn't in there. You didn't see the testimony. And more importantly, we're unable to see how those statements hold up against cross-examination. So the substantive analysis is very difficult if we are not able to have some standardized due process that is predictable and provides clarity.
Did you get a chance to see Bill Taylor's opening statement that was released? Do you think he made that all up, those 15 pages?
I would love to have the chance to cross-examine Taylor on those claims or even to observe my colleagues cross-examining Taylor. But this is the new Adam Schiff strategy.
Your colleagues can cross-examine him. Your Republican colleagues have been in the room,
I don't have the benefit of those questions and answers. Right.
So you don't trust your Republicans on these committees?
No, I want to see the consequence of their work, right? Like, it's they put out their opening statement. We engage in cross-examination. You want to ask me about the opening, but I don't have the benefit of the cross-examination to be able to test the allegations made in the opening statement. And that is all by design. It is not an accident that you and I are here having this interview on terms that are very favorable to the Adam Schiff theory of the case, because when John Ratcliffe asked questions that I think poke holes in the allegations that Taylor made, we don't get the benefit of those. Because you know what? They weren't leaked and they weren't in front of the American people. And that's the problem.
Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. Why don't you subscribe? It's really easy. Just click on that button down there. And for more news from MSNBC, click on any of these videos here for the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more videos from MSNBC with our newsletters. Head over to msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up.